The light of hope, at last the King is born. As the prophets told, the star is come, and the angels sing for joy. Yet the dark of doubt confounds the day. How quickly blindness clouds the way. Then the mountains fell, the cities burned, raging thunder rent the sky. What a mournful wail filled up the air, and the mist turned day to night. But the Father said, "Behold my Son, I am well pleased. Now hear ye him." The shadows flee, his quiet voice, come see the light of hope descend. Be free of doubt and rise, and touch his wounds and fall at his feet, the lost reclaimed. Come see the light. Though slain he lives, the Lamb of God. Go touch the Prince and know. Kneel at his feet and worship him. For your soul he drank the cup. Hosanna with one accord. Blessed the name, the Most High God. The shadows flee, his quiet voice, come see the light of hope descend. Be free of doubt and arise, come touch his wounds and fall at his feet, the lost reclaimed. Come see the light. He is Alpha, Omega. He is the light and life of the world. Build on his rock and break the gates of hell, and enter with him. The shadows flee, his quiet voice, come see the light of hope descend. Be free of doubt.
All right, divine ones. Well, welcome everybody. I'm grateful for you all showing up tonight. We have an amazing show as always with our divine team with Americans in Action and with our brother Cohen. I couldn't think of a better way to end this year um, than have these divine individuals with us. Um, so I'm grateful for our moderators, Kathy, she's been with me for quite a while, actually. We have CB's daughter, Shelly, and then, of course, last but not least, Healing by Intuition, Sam. These people are very dear to me. I have a very small circle that's close to me. And these individuals hold a very special place within my heart and within my soul, if you will. This is part of our soul family that we've been divinely brought together. And so, we have some amazing things I believe that we're going to see in the coming year of 2023. And we'll probably talk about that tonight. We're coming upon, I believe, the 7-year Jubilee. The Jubilee is a start over, if you will. It's a restoration. And I have been sharing on my channel at the Sovereign Redneck Renegade on Telegram. That's primarily where I do most of my broadcasting at this point in time. I have been sharing information over the last 2 or 3 months, dropping breadcrumbs, if you will, about my divine calling and purpose, my divine appointment, if you will. And we all have one. It's up to us to discover what those divine appointments are and why we're here. But we all have a divine destiny. We really do. So, thank you, Sam. You're dear to me as well. I appreciate you all. So without further ado, let's bring in Cohen. Shalom, brother. How are you doing?
I'm full of joy.
You're always full of joy. Thank you. That's great. I like the hat. It must be a little cold up in the north. I'm sorry, the east, right?
I'm in both the north and the east.
I know, exactly. I like that.
And we are anticipating, I'm up in the mountains, we are anticipating tomorrow evening winds where I'm located in excess of 100 miles an hour. It's going to be record winds, but it's beautiful and I'm enjoying every moment of it.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right, let's bring in our divine family from Americans in Action. All right, so we had to go on a hiatus for a few weeks now because the Nazis here at YouTube, they bitch slapped us. All right, so it is what it is. And you know what? So we have some plans that we'll talk about a little bit later on in this show where we're going to go to a centralized platform so we don't have to worry about being censored anymore. Okay. So, anyways, without further ado, the divine Christo. Hello, brother.
Hey, Cohen. Hey, how you doing, ML? I thought I was watching Johnny Carson, Ed McMahon for a minute there. Who's who? Anyway,
Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis.
Anyway, glad to be here, folks. And I think I brought a couple of my other convicts with.
You did. There's the divine Ananda and the divine Jay.
Hello. I'm bringing the gift of peace.
All right.
Hi, ML. Hi, Cohen.
Hi.
Christo and Jay, my comrades. So the gift of peace, something we cultivate within. It's not just simply something we get. We have to live peace in order to create peace, which is not always easy in this crazy world.
No,
Christo, I just got to say, I'd like to be your Ed McMahon.
That's funny.
If you're going to have an Ed McMahon, I'd like to fill that position, please.
There you go.
There you go.
Hey, any news from the East Coast there, Cohen?
It's a beautiful winter wonderland. Yeah, nothing abnormal to report. It's I'm spending some time just in the mountains, enjoying the weather and creation, and just really anchoring into the Creator.
How is the state there? How are the people in the state?
They are there's a split here. You know, there's those that are the normies, and they are very very liberal. And then there's those that really anchor into the state motto, live free or die. And so we're, you know, just like everywhere in the nation right now, we're in a place where we're ready for a great awakening.
Cool.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Very nice. Jay, how are you, brother?
Oh, you know, purifying every day. Micro of the macro, you know.
Yeah.
Ananda's right, you know, to be peace, you have to live peace to experience peace. And I'll be the first to admit, you know, we all have our trials and tribulations, but then coming out on the other side with support of those around you, and then just being committed to doing it, that's, I would think, about 90% of the game right there.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. Well, for those that missed out, last night we had an exciting time last night at the Sovereign Redneck Renegade Telegram channel. I just, at about 10 o'clock Central Time, I felt compelled that I needed to do an impromptu chat. And normally I don't do that, but I was a little, I don't want to say I was heated, but I was needing to verbalize and get my energy out. Let's just put it that way. And of course, you all were there. You know, Jay and Ananda came in and just beautifully added their spirit and their energy into the chat. And last night was really interesting because the organic way that chat started and then transitioned, it was very powerful, one of the most powerful chat shows I've actually ever been part of. Because generally when you do an impromptu one, you don't know what to expect. But last night, it just flowed, and we were guided by the Spirit. And I'll tell you what, I had people contacting me throughout the night, this morning. So thank you for being on there and contributing to that and adding of your amazing spirit with us. That was beautiful. We appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm going to share a little testimony, ML, that you weren't a part of. If I may share how Ananda and Jay got pulled in, is we were, they gave me a phone call just to kind of check in. There must have been some type of spirit connection where they were aware, because I was thinking, man, this conversation, we're talking about real solutions for the problems that are going on right now in the freedom movement, the disorientation, the charlatans, the wolves in sheep clothing, like all of this energy that really can just be remedied by standing as children of God. And I was like, man, these two powerhouses who are always a beacon of what it is to be children of God would be awesome to add right now. And then they called me. And so I had, fortunately, 2 devices in the space that I was going. So the other one started ringing, and I left the chat on. I went over and I answered. I said, hey, are you guys on the chat? They said, no. And I said, get on there. So it was amazing how they just sunk right up in the spirit, real time.
Divine providence.
It was a divine appointment. There was nothing pre-planned. It was just simply calling, checking in. Hello, how are you? And his excitement coming through the phone was like, oh my God, are you on ML? He's doing an impromptu live stream right now. And with that excitement and enthusiasm, I was like, man, I better drop everything. You know, we should drop everything and just hop on. I don't know what's going on, but let's find out. And so we just jumped right on. And it took us a little bit to catch up. Like, what's the topic? What's everyone talking about? And then we fell into place right around the gematria guy. And that was just cool. And then with Cohen's enthusiasm, then the gematria guy, it was just like, wow, what just happened? And we were all in the flow. I mean, it was divinely orchestrated. No way about it. No way about it.
Yeah, without a doubt. Well, it's we definitely have some issues in our Patriot community. I'm pretty confident most people that are awake within this community would agree with that. And it's like it was voiced last night. The gentleman by the name of Richard Citizen Journalist chimed in. He's never chimed into one of my shows before, so I don't know what prompted him to jump on there, listen, because he never has in the 2 years that I've done those things. But I'm grateful that he did do that, because here's an individual who, as for the last 2 years, has been a citizen journalist within Washington, D.C., boots on the ground, has shared a really amazing perspective of what's happening or what's not happening, per se, in the swamp, right? And so he's somebody that is fairly well connected in the Patriot community. Love him or hate him, it doesn't really matter. He has established himself as somebody that's willing to put himself out there to provide accurate information itself. So I was grateful for that, because here's somebody that's fairly well known within the community, and he's validating, the clarion call of what I was saying last night that needs to be done. We need a spiritual revival, reformation to restore the American covenant, to teach our patriots about being sovereign individuals, because they're the plan. They've been the plan the whole time, and that they need to quit falling for the savior complex, waiting for somebody to come save the day over and over and over again, and stop emotionally investing yourself into a man, the arm of flesh, to save you. I'm like, it's fascinating, how things work out. I did a show with Carrie Cassidy last week, and the whole point of that show was pretty amazing, because Carrie has been very vocal over the last 2 weeks, calling out certain aspects within the Patriot community. I have to be careful because we don't want to set off any, algorithm or censoring Nazis here. So she's been calling things out, right? And I have been also doing the same thing for quite a few months. But I don't have the footprint that she has within this community, nor the connections by choice. I could have easily sold out months ago and had hundreds of thousands of followers if I wanted to be used and abused with this community, but I chose not to do that. I chose a different path. And so she's very wise. She's been this investigative journalist for 20 years. And so she's not afraid of controversy, and she's not afraid to kick somebody in the nuts and say, thank you very much, because she's that gutsy type of spirit, but she's also intuitive too. And so I'm grateful that she's going on some of these other shows and expressing what we're all feeling, what we're all thinking in the back of our mind, and just putting it out there. Because until it's voiced and put out there, there's nothing we can do about it. And so she's taking that step. So I thought, well, I need to take that step. And so she's been after me for a few months to do a show with her. And I just haven't been able to, because I've been busy doing lots of other things. And I thought I need to just make this a priority. And it was a great show. We had a great show, and we'll do another show next week before the end of the year. But that show received quite a lot of gratitude from patriots, because we were willing to put ourselves out there and discuss the things that's on the hearts and the minds within this community. We have a divide here. It's sad, but we do, and you can actually almost pinpoint certain points within this timeline, the Patriot community timeline, when these divides start happening, and the individuals who come in who create the division within this community as well. So this is why I felt compelled. You know what? After doing that show with Carrie, I was more than ever convinced we need a spiritual revival in this community, not a political one, not a monetary military one. We need a spiritual one. Somebody's got to do it, so let's just do it. So that's why, on April 7th through the 9th in St. Louis, we're going to hold the first Stand in Honor conference. This is going to be the conference to help patriots feel that spirit once again, because I'm going to tell you guys, I get contacted. I know you guys hear it all the time too. There are so many of our divine brothers and sisters in the patriot community who have gone to these events. They've spent a lot of money to these events, and they feel empty when they get home. There's no direction for them. They feel deflated as well. And then when they emotionally invest their time and money into individuals or certain platforms of individuals, and things don't pan out, right? They're promised certain things that are supposed to happen. They don't transpire. And then they're given another false hope, another false state, another false event over and over and over again. So over the last 2 years, there are millions of patriots that are left by the wayside, and they're lost. And now they're starting to go back into their holes and go back into their boxes because they've been victimized and they don't want to put themselves out there anymore. So I feel this is the perfect opportunity for us to come in and restore the patriot movement. You guys go ahead and add upon that. Feel free to.
I second that motion.
I second that motion.
Yeah, I do. I just think it's such a beautiful thing because, seeing it with American State Nationals, seeing it with Christian community, the division is real, and people become so opinionated, and the opinion is of the mind, whereas when we live in the heart, we are one. The reality of God is we are one. So sadly, I kind of have to laugh because we're freedom lovers and we are a bunch of wild horses, and we all have great ideas, and everybody wants to be the hero, and everybody wants to bring home the boar's head. And it's like, well, try to get a bunch of freedom lovers in a room and have some sort of organization, because we don't like hierarchies. It's like, you're not going to tell me what to do. I've had enough of that. So, really, I love the name of the event that you're creating because it's Stand in Honor. Well, how do we stand in honor? Well, we have to first honor ourselves. Well, first honor God always, but then, honor yourself, self-respect. And then that's how we develop honoring the other. And then a great sage once said, there is no other, right? So when you respect another, you're actually respecting yourself. So as we do this, I feel like, it is God's divine orchestra, and we all kind of fall into our little place, our niche, if you will. And we each have unique talents, unique offerings. And if we can just kind of, make that puzzle kind of come together, we can figure this out and we can have unity. It's been foretold by many different sages and prophets that we will go back to tribes, and that we are very tribal beings. We like that feeling of community and family. So when we find our tribe, we know it and we light up. So usually when you find your tribe, you're going to be able to find where you fit in the equation, like what your role is in it. And then things sort of start unfolding naturally. And I think that's more of a spiritual way of living. And then the tribes, they get to know each other, and then they start gelling and trading and building and sharing ideas. So that's a mutual honor on the collective. So you have these like small collectives, and then they start locally, You know, what is it? Act globally, start locally. It's true. That's
It
what
is.
we do. So create your community in your area. And if you don't know anyone in your area, strike up conversations at the grocery store, because a lot of people are surprised when you say something like, hey, did you hear that there was the first common law court in God only knows how long in Kansas City, Missouri last week or a week before last? I mean, this is exciting. So we are rebuilding our republic, and it is happening, and which nobody can deny. You can't deny it, because common law courts are our true de jure courts. And so people are making it happen. We are making it happen. So that's it's you got to be an American in action, because if you're an American in apathy, that's how communism works. So we have to be careful. Don't fall into the slump, or oh, the problem's too big and no stinking thinking. Snap out of it. Watch an ML podcast and get inspired and get into action.
Beautiful. Well, that's what I want to address. I posted, I'm sharing. So Mila Rouse says, burnt out. And I'm going to tell you, Mila, why you're burnt out. You're burnt out because when you attend these events over the last 2 years, certain events have a false spirit about them. That's the reason why. You're not being edified by the true spirit of God's source creator, by the angelics, by the Christos. You're being nourished by a false spirit. When you went to certain events, and I don't want to name their name, but we know who they are. You guys were part of that at one point in time, and then you guys got away from that. There is an element of a false spirit there. And people commented on it for the last 2 years. They recognized something's not right here. They called out certain individuals that did certain prayers that had nothing to do with God. They had to do with a different God. We'll call the little God with the little G's. Let's put it that way, right? But also the promoters of that certain event had very questionable content material that had symbology of the Masonic Brotherhood and other Luciferian means, shall we say. And we all know what that is and who that is. I can't let this go by without saying this. I am coming upon a year mark where one of my close friends last year died this time last year. This is a gentleman who had a pretty good footprint in the Patriot community online. He felt compelled to go to this event that certain individuals were at in Dallas on December 10th through the 12th last year. And he had me pray over him several times because he was very concerned if he went, something might happen to him. And I said, Doug, if you're that concerned, that's the spirit prompting you, don't go. But he did it because he felt like he was losing traction with his followers. So he wanted to bolster up his followers, his subscription base. So he called me 3 or 4 times, both over a 2-week period before he went to the event in Dallas. And he went, he reported from there. And within a week when he came home, he contracted COVID. And within a week after that, he had to go to the ER. And you know what happened from there. They put him on the protocol. I tried to go rescue him, but certain individuals in this movement that were supposedly a friend of mine and him told me, don't go because Lynn Wood and Ann Vandersteel and others are on this. They're going to help him. We got a patient's advocate. They're going to help him out. So I stayed. I should have went there because he had nobody there to help him. No one. No man or woman should go through that alone. So Doug died this time last year, and there's no accountability because he contracted this at this event. 100 people contracted COVID at the same event. Within 2 weeks after Doug's death, we started seeing video being leaked out all over the internet of the event where there was the ventilation system in the ceiling was pumping out a mist over the entire audience there. And this isn't the first time individuals have contracted this at these events. It's happened multiple times, but no accountability has been held because of this. So Doug Kuzma was a patriot, and he died in vain. This is what I'm talking about. This crap has been going on for 2 years in our movement with no accountability of these individuals. And now you have the general, we all know who I'm talking about, who calls us the digital soldiers out there, who for the better part of 2 years, right, has been thought of as the top of the QAnon movement, the elite, top of the white hat movement. And just a few days ago, he comes out on a show called Prophet and Patriots with Clay Clark, and he says, I don't want to talk about the Q stuff because I don't believe in it. It doesn't exist. It's crap. It's a psyop. It's crap. It's bullcrap. I mean, he flat out says he doesn't believe in Q, the Q movement, or anything else like that. It's contrived. But for 2 years, he financially profited, as well as many others, off of this at these America rallies. And nobody has said anything, except for months. We've been talking about it on our little platforms, and not just me, other truthers have talked about it, put question marks out there, asking questions. Lynn Wood, he's in his compound. He can't even leave his compound because he knows he's a marked man. If he leaves, something's going to happen to him. But he uses his voice, and puts it out there through the different platforms. And he's been warning people as well. I watched a fantastic interview last week with Michael Jaco, and he interviewed these 2 intel officers, both prior CIA operatives. These 2 guys laid out what happened on January 6th, who was behind the soft coup to try and oust number 45. And they laid it out there. And they flat out called them out. They flat out said, what is that female attorney that talked about releasing the Kraken?
Sidney Powell.
Thank you. Thank you. She is losing her license because she has been found guilty of 12 counts of fraud or something to that degree as it relates to this. I'm thinking of this, guys. Mr. T, number 45, right after the 2020 debacle took place, he had a group of quasi-patriots come to his aid and rescue, right? They rallied around him. They circled the wagons around him. They were going to help restore the Republic. They were going to help restore what had been stolen from the American patriots. Nothing happened. Yet they all profited and gained greatly off of this over the last 2 years. And nobody holds them accountable. Nobody. And then we still have an individual that's held in the truther community as he is our quasi-leader. I don't know who the hell made this person the leader. He made himself the leader, and then people just bought off on it, apparently. But nothing he's ever said has ever come to pass. Nothing. But yet he can get away with promising all the dates and times of when things are supposed to happen with no accountability. Nobody posts them up except Nino, Mr. Rodriguez. He is starting, you can see he's starting to go, wait a second, something is not right here. Something is not right. He is starting to question things. And now he's getting a little bit of pushback because he's not going with the narrative now. He's trying to question the narrative now. That's what we all should be doing, is questioning the narrative. I don't want to sound like I'm on a soapbox, but this is one reason why we're in the shit show we're in our nation right now. I mean, for gosh sakes, they passed a freaking ominous bill today, right? Ominous bill. It is ominous. It's not omnibus. It's ominous because it's freaking evil. It's putting us more into slavery. It's insane. You guys know that Title 42 is gone today. They rescinded Title 42 today. Do you guys know that?
Didn't hear that. I heard it now,
Title
though.
42 was 45 exercised Title 42. See, Title 42 has been around since World War II. It's kind of an emergency authorization act, and it doesn't allow foreign entities, individuals to come into the United States under the auspice of they might have a disease, so they're held before they can come in. They can't claim certain things to come into the United States that they normally would, like asylum. They have to stay at a certain place, like in Mexico, for X amount of time to go through the asylum process and vetted and everything else like that. That was rescinded today, period. So now we have 13,000 illegal immigrants coming across our border every single day now. There's over 1 million of them down in Mexico waiting to come right across the border. And in the ominous bill that was passed today, they specifically put provisions in that bill that said, we are not giving any money to the security of our border, period. It's not happening. We're being invaded.
Yeah, we are. No
We
doubt
got
about it.
13,000 illegal aliens coming into the United States, given money. They're going to be put up in hotels. They're going to be bussed and flown all over the country. 13,000 a day. The infrastructure can't handle that. We've had 5 million illegal aliens allowed in the country over the last 2 years. 5 million on top of the 30 million that's been here for the last 30 or 40 years.
Part of the deal to them coming in is they get their you know what. And, if they get their you know what, well, I don't know how much longevity their lives will be, but it's sure a mess. The whole thing's a freaking mess. It's a nightmare. It's planet nightmare. I feel bad for the one who says, what was it, burnout? Burnout is real. How do we keep our stamina? I mean, this is just, it's like God's soldiers are taking a beating here. And we're like, really? You want us to get up and keep going? And the answer is yes. Give yourself a beat, though. If you're burnout, go into your burnout wholly. I don't recommend. We practice, I call it lawful Aikido or spiritual Aikido, where we don't run from what is, we go right in the center of it. So if you're burnout, be really burnt out. Walk around in your moth-eaten sweater and just eat Dollar Tree snacks and just be so burnt out, because it's real. Their life has never been so real as it has been these last few years. So you just be you. And if you're burnt out, you're still a child of God, and God's got your back.
There you go.
So yeah, we don't try to force the issue here. It's we will get resuscitated when we're inspired and when we're ready. And it's God's divine time, but I get it. Burnout is real. And then after hearing, there's so many false prophets. It's like, blah, blah, blah. We've heard it all. And so there's nowhere to go but in. And that's where you get the gold. That's where God exists. And nobody can take that from you. Nobody can take that from you. So, I love ML. I love your platform that you've created, because it's really like a spiritual safe haven where we can just let our hair down and just say what's on our minds, free speech to the best of our abilities.
I just want to say
within the construct of the rules and codes. But
I just want to say that
you created it.
I wanted to say that I have been trying to let my hair down all day today, and I'm very upset about it. So I've been falling into apathy to the fact that I'm not able to let my hair down. So I'm going to the Dollar Tree to gain some snacks, so I can feel what it is not to be able to let my hair down. It's been with me this problem for about 20 years now. I've tried
I cannot see you
to
eating Dollar Tree
I've tried
snacks, but
to
that's
take
funny.
some of this hair and put it here to make it look like Cohen, and it just fails all the time. But I will
I
say,
just thought of a new hashtag line: Dollar Tree Hair Club for Men.
yeah. I will say this though, like what Ananda was saying. Yeah, God is running the show, and these last 2 years, we like to say, God works in mysterious ways. We've all heard that before. And even in the Q movement, they talk about, 45 is doing what 45 does so that the exposure can be whatever the exposure is going to be so people can wake up. The truth of the matter is that, like water, God, truth comes to the surface no matter what through the purification of the water, right? And on my own personal journey, I have to go through that. And then through the grace of God, by being committed to doing the purification, I can come out to another side. So if you look at yourself as a microcosmic level and then reflect on the macro level, what we're seeing on the planet, what appears to be a falling apart is what one could call a mass purification of Mother Earth. And you can see that in pardon the expression, individual people's journeys, and we see it every day when we're working with people. One guru, ancient guru that we sat with at one point said, the destruction will destroy itself. So Babylon will destroy itself, despite what it looks like on the outside. And we're seeing it. We just saw it the other day. We were working with a woman, and she had this thing with an attorney who was totally corrupt. So we guided her in the sense that said, okay, well, before you just fire the attorney, let him dig his own grave. And by doing that, it keeps you with clean hands. The matter will resolve and the contract will be abated if we can get him to destroy himself through his own demise. So what does that look like in the physical is we looked at all of the documents and all the contracts and stuff, and we just presented a bunch of questions to him where we basically just showed him in his own language how he was incompetent and he contradicted himself. And by the 2 days later, he resigned and it was done. So she's free, clean hands. He destroyed himself and now she's free. So if you take that on one example and you look at what's happening on the macro level of people who wanted to be held accountable for, all you have to do is what you're called to do in the divine right action, as we say, Americans in action. And one example is you write letters to those that will receive them. You ask questions. Well, like with your blessed friend, Doug, what happened with those vents? How come there was nothing there? Who owns that facility where that thing was taking place? And was that particular man or woman who owns the building, was he aware of the ventilation? We, as people who have been affected by that particular event, would like to know what the contents of what was coming out of those vents. I need you to disclose that to me effective immediately. And you start doing an investigation like that until all of a sudden the truth starts coming out because the water is coming. And it's an inevitability that people will be held liable and accountable. We just have to ride the wave and keep moving forward in that direction while holding the vision to manifest the kingdom of heaven, as what Cohen said so beautifully last night, like a true Kohanim at the end of the prayer, that we are here now holy ground. And so we kind of just can not necessarily sit back and eat our Dollar Tree pretzels, but we don't necessarily have to be as concerned if you're choosing as a chosen one to choose to be in kingdom of heaven. The universe heard you. Okay. So it's got your back. Now let's just guide within our own journeys as we purify individually and we help our friends and family. And then we start locally and think globally, but it starts here. And then we do our divine right actions every day, but we have to be patient because it can become overwhelming when we're seeing all this stuff. But if we've ever had like a little wound on your finger, or any acne or something, when it's purifying, it gets pretty pussy. Forgive the graphic, right? But at the end, it clears. So right now we're going through the pus, so to speak, and perhaps there'll be a clearing later on. And when that is in God's time, but the healing process happens. So we're here for each other to guide us through that healing process on our own, together, and then on a mass collection. And so hopefully that gives some optimism as we can view the picture from a bird's eye point of view, because sometimes we get lost amongst the trees, the forest and the trees. But if we can just sit back, take a walk, breathe. I like to hit my punching bag every so often, and that helps. Whatever you need to do, and then come back. I don't drink, but I drink chocolate syrup, and that helps. I like doing that. That's my vice. So whatever your vice is, as long as it's not harming anybody or yourself physically, find a way to get back into your presence, your meditation, your breathing. And if you have to hit a punching bag or drink some chocolate syrup or whatever it is, find it till you get back to center and go, okay, keep moving forward. And that's how you can get out of the apathy, and then jump onto things like ML's, Sovereign Redneck, and anything else that brings you a nice weekly dose, and reach out and connect, which is what we're all here for. And then get a wig, because that'll help.
Then you can pretend that your hair done.
Instead of a wig, though, I like the idea of an ephod. That's what David said when he was in his depression in the cave at Ziklag, when life was just raining down on him, and his family and friends were turning against him, and his king was out to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
A king that he swore to serve, and it just, the whole world, all the plans that he was making and thought was going to manifest was crumbling down around him. And he was depressed. But rather than going into self-pity, he said, go get the ephod. And the ephod was his dawning of prayer. It was the moment, kind of like Joshua had, where I talked about last night, where he takes his shoes off and recognizes that right here, it's not time to do something, it's time to be. And be in the presence. And a lot of times, and I feel you, because I've been burnt out too, and I know that feeling. And it's our clue that something that we're doing is not in perfect alignment. Your friend ML Doug, he had a clue that something wasn't in alignment. But we get the push from the external to do, right? We're going to lose numbers in our following, so we've got to go to the event. We're going to lose steam in our movement, so we've got to, rally up the troops and get everybody motivated, or we've got to go, write a blog post, or we've got to go do something, and we get into a that fight or flight movement where we feel like we just have to do something. It's always conditioned. You're not making enough money, go out and take on a second job, and where something's not working, we'll try harder. And that's not the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is within, and whatever we do is without. And if what we're doing on the outside is not coming from a place of alignment and of peace and of abundance, see, that's the moment where kingdom of heaven meets earth, is the moment within. And it's that has infinite power, when that moment of within is unified with the kingdom of heaven. But when we do, we're exposed to the external initiatives, and that's what separates us from the kingdom, and that's where burnout happens. That's when we get tired and we get fatigued, because we are in our own strength. You know, the name of God is the place where power is. There's power in the name of God. And we've been taught, those of you who, like myself and ML, and I'm sure all of us here have been exposed to some type of religious organization and training that has taught us to finish our prayers with, you know, in the name of God, as kind of like a punctuation that somehow whatever we put into prayer is now suddenly blessed and sanctified by God. But that's not the name of God at all. The name of God is a place that we physically or energetically, spiritually exist. Kind of like David in the cave. He was in the cave. Moses was in the cleft of the rock, surrounded by the rock. He was in the name of God. It's not our words, although our words have to come from a place of being within the name of God. But it's the place, the calm in the storm, the centeredness that once we are in the name of God, surrounded by his countenance, then whatever we ask, whatever we speak, whatever we put out comes from that place. It has to line up with what's within, because there's the unified connection.
Beautiful. True that. True
Beautifully
that.
said. That was beautifully said. And I would encourage people to go back and listen to the live chat last night, because there was so much spiritual wisdom that was shared last night. I mean, I went back and I listened to it and listened to it again. And again, divine providence was at play with what was shared last night. You know, you had to be there. It's in the moment, you know, and that's what we're going to do at this upcoming event. Is when people come, they are going to be lifted. So when they go home, they are going to be on a spiritual high, where they're going to be able to go back to their loved ones, back to their communities, and they will have directive, because that directive will come from God, not from man, first and foremost. And so I would dare say that these events will be, there will be some very significant, I guess you could call it Pentecostal in a way, but I believe the spirit will be so strong there that people will have tears of joy and gratitude. They will check that ego at the door. That ego will no longer be there. That's what I know is going to take place, because you, American in Action, will be a central point in this. And I know when people attend the seminars, people are edified by the Spirit in such a way that compels them to want to become that true divine sovereign child of God, and whatever that takes and whatever they need to do to accomplish that, because they'll realize that the world that we live in, we might have to be in the world, but we don't have to be of the world itself. And that they will realize that they have a divine destiny. They've always had a divine destiny. It's just that some of them have forgotten what that purpose was. And they're going to have purpose. You know, that's like with the our homeless initiative that we are doing. We set a lofty goal for the second one, $17,777. There's a reason why I put those numbers in there, because these are sacred funds, and these are God's funds that'll be utilized to bless his children, adult children. And so people are being very generous right now, very generous. And I'll tell you, in the last 48 hours, well, let me say, since Sunday, we actually formally organized our group, and we have some amazing divine souls within this group who are going to play a very pivotal role in going forward in what we're going to be doing with true sovereignty and the different initiatives that are appendages to true sovereignty. One being Stand in Honor itself, but also the Homeless Initiative. You know, we have individuals we're helping right now who are putting pieces in place to transition from homelessness into homes. There are patriots that are opening up their homes to allow these veterans to come in and receive a hand up and transition back into society. That's the most amazing thing, to see how this is actually unfolding itself. I mean, I have people contacting me offering up their homes throughout the country, but I'm having to like put them on hold until we have a better organizational structure in place so that we can make sure these are good fits first and foremost. And it's absolutely amazing to see what's taking place. But also, that being said, the other night I was given an opportunity to look at something that could actually help these veterans, disabled veterans, homeless veterans, to be able to have an income, because they need an income. They need to be able to feel like they're contributing in some capacity itself, because they need a mission, right? They need to be able to feel like they're accomplishing something so that they have that renewed feeling of contribution back to society. Instead of just taking, now they're giving as well, right? And that helps restore faith, that helps restore hope, because now we're helping these divine men and women to not feed them for a day, but to actually fish. We're teaching them how to fish once again. So I have invested in a program that's going to help these individuals once they make that transition and they settle into the transition. Then we're going to help them be able to generate an income and teach them a marketable skill, if you will, so that they can actually start building and rebuilding their lives again itself. So I'm telling you, when you're doing the right thing and you keep the focal point of what that is, that you're trying to stay in tune with God's Spirit and what needs to be done, things fall in place the way they're supposed to fall in place.
Yeah, it's so
That's
true.
beautiful. That's
I love
beautiful.
I love your talk about the restoration of the covenant. And I really hope that, and you also mentioned that when people go to these events, they get inspired, they get a hit of energy, they go, they're kind of like feeling it, and then it's like rah, rah, afterwards. So my hope and my prayer for this event is that people will come. Yes, they will be inspired, but they'll be so inspired to get to know themselves in ways they never knew before. That each soul, because as we are empowered, we help others to be empowered. It's not that someone else is so great and we're going to compare ourselves to where they're at. It's like, you're great. You have something to offer. Your voice needs to be heard. You have something to bring to the table that is so important. That's like one of the key pieces of the puzzle for us to have kingdom of heaven living. That you're so enthusiastic about your place in the whole that you don't run out of energy. And when you leave, it's like you keep being rejuvenated, because as we give, so one of the rules that are rules, like we don't like patriots aren't a big fan of rules, but I'll just say that one of the things that we do with Americans in Action is we all have this naturally, and probably all your viewers have this naturally. We have this service attitude. And when we're in service to others, we get out of our own way. So if you're in the doldrums or stinking thinking, anything like that, If you get into service, you get out of your own way. And there's no room for those negative thoughts to come in and kind of grab hold. And so as you're in service, when you pour out the love you are, your cup runneth over, right? And then you become empty, because when you give, your cup goes down, right? And then your cup fills up with divine love, and you're constantly replenished. We seem to think that if I keep giving, I'm going to drain myself of my life force energy, and I'll be depleted and I won't have anything to give. Now, everything in balance, right? Moderation, because you do have to take time to recharge your battery and practice your health and well-being. But what I'm saying is, with that real service attitude, your cup fills with divine love, and you are replenished, you are renewed, you are restored, you are rejuvenated. And for me, on my spiritual path, several times throughout the years, I've had to recognize that I was falling away from my God path. And then I recommit. So you can recommit at any time, and you catch yourself falling off. Oh, I'm getting a little lazy. I'm getting pretty cynical. I'm fed up. I don't, lower self needs, blah, blah, blah. And you catch yourself. And then for me, I take a beat, and then I renew, and I go, you know what? I'm getting back to what is the highest way of living. Like, it's kind of like if you fall away for a while, just brush yourself off and recommit, because when you do that, you're restored. It's like amazing. So I like it that you were talking about that, the restoration of the covenant.
Well, that's the thing. Most people don't know there's actually a covenant over this nation, over this land. We talk about the covenant over Israel, right? Spiritual covenant, the literal covenant. And as a former Christian, I was indoctrinated as a Christian. It's my duty to make sure that the covenant of Israel stays intact, that we honor that covenant of Israel. But most people don't know that, modern day Israel, how it was comprised, how it was created, who runs Israel. God didn't put that in place. I'm sorry to tell you that. The ancient Israelites, yes, that's for sure. My actually, family line, my paternal line is one of the lost tribes of Israel. I'm Basque. All right. I have an AB negative, Rh negative factor AB blood type, which is the Christos blood line itself. So I know about ancient Israel and this covenant itself. But there's a covenant over this land too, because when you start doing your history, you start seeing that we talk about duality. Well, guess what? What if ancient Egypt and ancient Israel were here? Was. There's a reason why the First Nation people, the First Nation indigenous people, who were one of the first 5 root races on this planet outside of Mu, Lemuria, Atlantis, the Aborigines, the indigenous, are one of the first 5 root races on this planet. And here is where a lot of biblical events actually took place. There's so much truths that are being restored to us. And there's a covenant over this nation. You see, the First Nations people, they've known about this covenant for a very long time. As a matter of fact, there was 2 American presidents that were taught about this American covenant. George Washington was one, Abraham Lincoln was another one. They were told about the American covenant. Some of the founding fathers were told about this American covenant from certain First Nation tribes itself. And so when people find out that they're part of the American covenant, all right, whether you're born here or not, okay, once you become an American, you're part of the American covenant. the restoration and the fulfillment of the American covenant as well. When they finally understand that they have a opportunity to restore the covenant, to teach and tell people about this great covenant that's over this land as well, it's going to ignite something in them, because they're not being taught these truths at these events. They're not being taught a lot of these truths at these events. Oh, I'm telling you.
That's beautiful.
I'm so excited for what's coming. Like I say, I'm so excited for this opportunity, and we're planning on this. I'm not just settling for one city in St. Louis. I'm planning on Florida the following month in May. We're going to have one in June and so forth. So we will keep these planned out 3 months in advance. So we'll start building them up, ramping them up, because one, I want to keep you guys out there as well and help you guys out there with your mission and your initiative on top of that as well, but I think it's going to catch hold itself. And wouldn't it be amazing that we have to upgrade the capacity? Because I'm going to tell you, I already know what's going to happen. I've already been shown what's going to happen. The veil is shown to me that the Spirit is going to convey, and people are going to come to these things. And what a great problem to have when you have to upgrade the capacity of a location, because it's just, yeah.
We feel the movement. It's hand of God, no doubt. We feel it, and it will unfold naturally without forcing any topic or issue or room size or anything. It's going to be a really beautiful unfolding. I can sense it. I was looking over at the chat and noticed one gentleman said, "Hey, are you state nationals?" And yeah, we have some state nationals here on the show, and it's exciting because people don't realize what it is. A woman came out recently and she was saying, "Oh no, if you become a state national, you'll be a man or a woman without a country." And what we like to say is, actually, you'll be a man or woman without a corporation. And it's a very freeing feeling to not be a slave to something that you didn't voluntarily sign up to. You may be accidentally volunteered. They say, Jay says this one a lot. I borrow some of Jay's quotes from time to time, but I try to give him credit for it. He says, what's the quote? What's the quote I'm thinking of? Come on, help me out. I just thought of
When
it.
without a wig, buy a wig.
No. Come on.
Oh. Yeah, I'm not sure which quote you're thinking of.
Oh shoot! Not a man without a country. You're without a corporation. I lost it. Doggone it.
Oh,
okay.
I should have just ran with it.
You should have ran with it. Yeah.
Man.
I see the question. I see the question on the screen, and I wanted to address that. I'm sure Ananda will want to address it. But before we do that, I wanted to say this about the covenant. We have an associate that says this often. He says, when this country was founded, it was founded under God. Under God. Right? When you look at biblical principles, when you look at the Bible, it talks about covenants from day one. Now, God, true God, despite those other evidence and things of that nature of multiple gods in the Bible, this and that, we're talking about source energy, true creator God. Okay? That true creator God is a God that keeps God's covenants. And those that choose to be in alignment with that covenant are those who are called the chosen ones. Now, having said all that, what we're seeing on the planet today and in the country is God going, I have a covenant, and you cats have a choice. You can stay in Babylon And if you do, have fun with yourself. Or you can come and choose, because everything has to be a choice. You have free choice. You have a choice to go into kingdom of heaven and take my hand and trust me on that. That's why everything's a trust, and there's nothing that's not a trust. Therefore, the question, it's a trust. That's up on the screen. If we know what we know about the courts and the fraud in the government, why is the Bible in the court? So with that, is a universal law that says everything, because it's a choice, has to be disclosed to you. But it's up to you to decipher the disclosure. Okay? And it's up to you to decipher the codes, like we were talking about last night, the gematria. Everything is in code. Or if you go to the East, it's called Zen. Because as Christo talks about, it's not the words specifically, but it's the energy, the space between the words where it resonates with you inside your heart. So why is the Bible in the court? And why does it say on the Federal Reserve note, banks notes, in God we trust? Well, there's multiple levels to that answer to that question. Okay, let's start with the basic disclosure. If this country has a covenant which was founded on God, then by definition, they have to disclose that this country is founded on God and not on a corporation, right? So they have to disclose it to you right there in front, and they'll put it right there in the courts. They'll put it right there on the dollar bill and say, it's in God we trust. But then there is a flip on that, because here's the thing. Babylon knows about the consciousness of the covenant and the energy, but they also have their God. And they're saying it's in God that we trust. So which God is it? The Bible that they have in the court may not be the Bible that is the purest Bible. Just know that over the years, the Bible has been manipulated, changed. The writings have been changed, even to the point of infiltration. Okay. So now if the Bible in the court that they have speaks of the word God, but they changed the spelling of the word God, they've now changed the God that you think you're swearing an oath to, which by definition means you're swearing an oath to their God. And it's trickery. We all know on this call that there's a God that they worship, which is a dark God or whatever it is. It's not source energy, but they're going to put it out there in trickery ways. And it's up to you to decipher their legalese and their spiritual essences of their languages. Right? But by definition, they have to disclose it to you, whether they do it on a dollar bill that says in God we trust, whether they do it with their symbologies, whether they do it in Hollywood or whatever they do, they have to disclose it. But then it's up to you to decide what you're choosing to go into agreement with and what you're swearing an oath to. So if anybody were to go into court, and like we always recommend not to ever go into court, because like if you are a state national, or if you know who you are as a child of God, then it's actually treasonous to go into that court of Babylon, right? So we try to handle everything administratively. However, if you were to go into court, what's to say that you can't recommend to bring in your own Bible? Who's to say that you can't bring in your own documents? What happens if you are not religious? Then you can say an affirmation. There are many different avenues about it. But the reason why they put it on the dollar bill is those twofold. Basically, they have to disclose it of the original covenant that ML was talking about, to tell them that they're saying they're not in charge. Then they're saying, but we have our own God, and it's that we charge, that we worship. And then if you believe in that, you've now contracted with us. But at the same time, it's a reminder through source energy to say this piece of paper, right? This piece of paper, which is valueless, whether you put a 10 on it, a 20 on it, or 100 on it, it's still the same piece of paper, costs the same amount for them to print it. It's valueless. So it's the universe's way of saying, remember where your connection is truly. And you can use this particular tool to navigate as you're going back to Kingdom of Heaven. But remember, it's up to you to decipher the codes and choose Babylon or Kingdom of Heaven. I hope that answers your question.
That's
I like
beautiful.
that, Jay.
Thank you, Jay.
I want to add a couple things, if I may. So rumor has it that they've incorporated the word God. So God God, all caps, corporation is gold, oil, and drugs. So which God are you praying to? So that kind of parlays into what you were saying. In addition to that, I had a really enlightened conversation with a woman this afternoon who shared with me about swearing on the Bible. The courts will basically try to force you to swear on the Bible. And she's a very biblical woman. And she says, I don't swear. And what to do? And I thought, well, there's a contemplation. If you don't swear, if that goes against your religious beliefs, and why would you swear on the Bible? Swear an oath over the Bible? Wait a minute. If swearing is written in the Bible as something that we're not to do, and let's say we're using the Bible as our law book, and then we go and we swear over a Bible, what have we done? We become double-minded.
Right.
And it's part of their trickery, right? Another segue from what Jay was saying and a compliment to what he was saying. So now you've got trickery. Now you feel like you're forced or under duress. You think you have to swear over a Bible or else. But what if you suggested something? Because we really help people to develop their standing. So we create our language. We have been ordained by God and we declare and decree. And Yeshua ben Joseph taught us the I am. So what if you were to say something like this? I will take a vow to tell the truth, you know? And so we can create our own words and our own language. One of the maxims of trust is that which creates controls. We are original. We are the creators of government here in USA. And that was through, we inherited the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, the amendments. We inherited that as inheritance because the founding fathers passed away, right? So a beneficiary is different than one who inherits, so an heir. When we're the beneficiary, we receive the benefits from the trust called the Constitution. And then if you're an heir, that means that the ones that created it passed away and you inherited. So we inherited grantorship as one of we the people. So we are the creators of anything under the Constitution. The Constitution is a powerful trust because it was, I feel, channeled by saintly men who based it on biblical principles and biblical teaching. So American law is based on biblical principles. Whether you're a Christian or not, whether you read the Bible or not, whether you're religious or not, whether you believe in God or not, the facts remain the same. American law was based and written on biblical principles. So the facts are the facts. The cool thing is that being said, is they were written to protect the rights of all men, even those who don't believe in God or have different religions. How cool is that? And it was said that part of the First Amendment, one of the gentlemen who came and said, this is going to be very important in the coming days. He was a Jewish man, and he said, you got to include the freedom of religion. And now what we've seen over the last several years, the people that have been making headway with their affidavits, most of, well, not most, but many, no, it's probably most of the cases were getting thrown out of court. Affidavits were getting dismissed and thrown aside, except for the ones who were touting freedom of religion. This goes against my religion. And then, of course, the other one was discrimination. So if you were discriminated against or it went against your religious. But people who were crying medical freedom, they didn't have any standing. People who stand for their beliefs and their heart and their soul, they're being recognized. So that's powerful. That is so powerful. Anyway, I hope that helps. Everything Jay said, everything is trust and there's nothing that's not trust. So that first trust here in the USA is the Constitution. So
Thank you. That's
Mhm.
amazing. Well, let me show you, give you guys a visual. You see that? That is a book that I have been writing for probably 20 years. It's 888 pages. This is
Wow.
all the information on the American Covenant. You see, there's significant parallelisms of the First Nations people here on this continent and many of the biblical stories that we believe to have happened in other certain geological or geographical locations, shall we say. These are all handed down from the many generations of the First Nations people going back many thousands of years. And they all talk about this covenant over this land itself. So I know a little bit about the American Covenant itself. I actually constructed this a few years ago. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but it's called the Restore the Covenant, a Resolution. We do hereby resolve before God, our eternal Father and our Savior, to take upon ourselves the sacred and solemn vow that as individuals and as families, we will remember, restore, revere the American Covenant, and in doing thus, commit to undertake the following actions. We will strive daily to honor the two obligations upon which the blessings of the American Covenant are predicated. First, that we keep the 10 Commandments. Second, that we serve the God of this land by upholding and protecting the divinely inspired Constitution He has provided for this nation, forever acknowledging the abundant blessings that flow from it. We will promote separation of the church and state, not separation of God and state. Where God and the people hold the power to conduct the affairs of men in righteousness, where liberty and the protection of life and property shall be maintained inviolate for the benefit of all. We do acknowledge that it is our sacred duty to participate in government as it is paramount to the success of His great nation. And with this knowledge, we will elect honest and wise leaders that understand America's divine role and will carry out this vision. We will repent and rededicate our efforts towards working together as brothers and sisters of the covenant with the common and united purpose of heart, mind, and spirit as we seek to establish Zion in our hearts and homes in preparation to receive the Christ when He returns again to this, His promised land. We therefore resolve this day to live all the covenant obligations, for as we succeed in doing so, the national blessings of liberty, protection, and prosperity will flow greater measure from our Creator, causing our hearts to swell and our voices to proclaim, "Oh, thus be it ever when freemen shall stand between their loved homes and the war's desolation. Blessed with victory and peace, may the heaven-rescued land praise the power that hath made and preserved us a nation. Then conquer we must, when our cause it is just. And this be our motto, in God is our trust."
That's
Wow.
wow.
That is,
wow.
I
Wow.
love it.
I have been
That was-
preparing this opportunity for 20 years to restore the
Wow.
American Covenant.
Wow.
And God is our trust. That is so powerful, and it ties exactly into what you were saying, Ananda, where the First Amendment, the right to freedom of our connection with God, the freedom to express our relationship with God how we see fit, is so fundamental to who we are as a free people. And I just want to acknowledge, Chris, your question here. And we're going to answer this. I want to get to it, though. But Chris, I honor you as a veteran and for your service because you are standing in the gap. You are a trustee, a very sacred position of this right that we have to freedom of religion is protected, by the oath that you've taken. And I have taken that oath as well. And so I recognize the sacrifice. And you are in a position where it is very difficult right now with the moral compromise, right? There's an erosion taking place. There is an attack on the trust, which is God. God is our trust, just like what ML just said. There is an attack on the position of God in our nation. And this is not new to this land, right? You talk about the covenant. The First Amendment was put into our Constitution, to our Bill of Rights, because of case law that happened well before we were formed as a country. It was a very important case. I'm going to read a little bit on it. It's a couple paragraphs because it tells a very important story of our nation. Those people who are not governed by God will be ruled by tyrants. That's William Penn. Edward Bushell and 3 fellow jurors learned this lesson well. They refused to bow to the court. They believed in the absolute power of the jury. Though their 8 companions cowered to the court, the 4 jurors spent 9 weeks of torture in prison, often without food or water, soaked with urine, smeared with feces, barely able to stand, and even threatened with fines. Yet they would not give in to the judge. Edward Bushell said, "My liberty is not for sale." Though he had great wealth and commanded an international shipping enterprise, these bumbleheads, so the court thought, proved the power of the people was stronger than any power of government. They emerged total victors. See, the year was 1670, and the case Bushell sat on was that of William Penn, who was on trial for violation of the Conventional Act. This was an elaborate act which made the Church of England the only legal church. The act was struck down by their not guilty vote. Freedom of religion was established and became part of the English Bill of Rights, and later it became the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. In addition, the right to speech, assembly, was founded on the freedom of speech, and also habeas corpus. The first such writ of habeas corpus ever issued by the Court of Common Pleas was used to free Edward Bushell. Later, this trial gave birth to the concept of freedom of the press. Had Bushell and his colleagues yielded to the guilty verdict sought by the judge and prosecutor, William Penn most likely would have been executed, as he clearly broke the law. Then there would have been no Liberty Bell, no Independence Hall, no city of Philadelphia, and no state called Pennsylvania. For young William Penn, founder of Pennsylvania and leader of the Quakers, was on trial for his life. His alleged crime was preaching and teaching a different view of the Bible than that of the Church of England. This appears innocent today, but then one could be executed for such actions. He believed in freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and the right to peacefully assemble. He had broken the government's law, but he had injured no one. Those 4 heroic jurors knew that only when actual injury to someone's person or property takes place is there a real crime. No law is broken when no injury can be shown. Thus, there can be no loss of, I don't know the word, no loss or termination of rights unless actual damages is proven. Many imposter laws were repealed as a result of this case. See, there is a fundamental point that's under attack right now, and that is the sanctity, the absolute superiority of God and our right as his children to have a relationship exclusive with him without the say-so of any other entity. And this was the fundamental issue in back then. It's been the fundamental issue in many societies before, and this is the torch that we carry as children of God and as veterans as well, because we are defending this sacred right of the beneficiaries of this trust, the children of God in this land. And so you asked the question, Chris, do you give up rights as becoming a state national? And I would say to you that you were born a state national. You were born a child of God, beneficiary of every good thing that God has prescribed, has granted in that trust, which is a right to have a relationship. And it takes bold courage in a society so willing to undermine that trust, to undermine God, to identify and to stand as who we are as that child of God. And there will be pushback. I'll tell you, there will be pushback. Your commanders will not understand it, and they will want to question it. But I assure you that you're standing, and Jason and Ananda, you can jump in here because you know how to articulate this better than I do. But as a state national, this was who you were when you were born. This was who you were when God expressed your identity and let you manifest a physical experience here on earth. You were by what we understand, state national, that child of God. You had all of your rights. They were forfeited when you entered into contracts and became a citizen. And so you cannot serve your nation, serve your family, and serve your God in any better state than under the sovereign position of a child of God, state national. And I'll yield back the rest of the floor.
Drop the mic.
Dang.
Dang. Drop the mic.
Boom. Boom.
Wow.
Very well, brother. Very well done.
Wow. Yeah, and just to follow up with that, I'd love to add a little something. You don't lose anything by becoming a state national, in my opinion. I've done nothing but gain personal empowerment, more freedom, less harassment. It's an amazing experience. And for me, it was just an empowering, life transforming experience. So for things like Social Security and military benefits and things like that, things that we put into, we can still receive, but we receive them in a different way. So we don't identify as the all caps name, because a capital, all capital letters name is a corporation. It's a corpse oration. It is a dead entity. I'm alive. I'm a spirit-filled woman, right? But I am beneficiary of the trust called the all caps name. So in that case, one would qualify their signature, step in as beneficiary to receive the benefits that your sweat equity, your your labor created and you put into. So yeah, you should be able to receive from that which you put into. And you're probably going to have some really interesting conversations along the way with people because they're not going to understand it. So in these positions as state nationals, it's actually you step into a teacher role because it's up to us to educate. We educate our, as Peggy Hall says, our public servants. Public servants, they're not all bad. Some of them are, filled with heart, and God has his soldiers in all areas, and only he knows who's of the light and who is a creepy crawler. But we can kind of sense, and yeah, there's going to be some interesting conversations ahead. But yeah, it's just a matter of what hat you're going to wear at which time. Like tonight, ML's wearing his cowboy hat. Tonight, I'm wearing my French beret. And Cohen had on a cap that looked like he's up in the mountains. There you go. Yeah. He needs his axe, and he's going to build an
lumberjack hat.
Outdoor fort. Yeah. He's ready to build his fort.
Oh,
and
there
Jay,
you go.
Oh, good God.
We're all styling.
Jay has a cap. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, but it really is a matter of what hat you're going to wear and knowing your jurisdictions. And so once you get the hang of it, it gets really fun. And these conversations, although they can be challenging at times, it helps you to develop yourself even further in your standing. So as we learn this stuff and we know this stuff, then we're able to articulate it more, then we can share more, and more people become empowered, and the beat goes on. It's really a fun time to be alive. It's a strange time to be alive. Can be a scary time to be alive, but it's also really fun. And then ML, okay, not sorry. I have to compliment you on your channeled visionary declaration of the restoration of the covenant, because that is a divine document. I don't like to say document. That's a divine decree, and that you were so tapped in, and then to be able to pull it all together at the end with the grand exclamation point, tying it into trust, which is everything. It's everything. It's literally everything. We trust our instincts. We trust God. God trusts us. God granted us dominion over the land, the air, and the water. It'd be a good idea to trust God and that God has a plan. It's everything. Trust is everything. And trust law is the highest jurisdiction. If you look at your jurisdictions, you've got land, air, water. Air is above the land and above the water. If you can learn this stuff and really make it your own, these are tools you can have in your tool belt, and nobody can ever take them from you. They're yours to keep. God has given us the keys to the kingdom. God has given us the keys to the kingdom.
Thank you.
It is just, there's no way around it.
This goes back to what Cohen was sharing last night, because Cohen knows, and I've shared this with my divine family on my channels. I serve at the will of God. I have a divine appointment as an ELIAS, but I also serve on the order of the Melchizedek. So I have a divine obligation, shall we say, to protect that covenant as a sentry, to make sure that that covenant is not violated. It's tough. Sorry. So we are, this nation is ready for this restoration to take place. There is it's called the White Horse Prophecy, where the Constitution shall hang by the thread. Well, we're there. We're there. And the children of God will step forward to preserve that trust, that covenant, if you will. This is literally in the days of the wheats being separated from the tares. The spiritual sifting of the wheat from tare has been going on for a long time. We're now in the literal sifting. We talk about ascension quite often for good reason, because I have an eternal heavenly mandate to help usher in heaven on earth, as do each and every one of us. We have a divine appointment. And I don't take that lightly, because I know we're at the time where we're making the great harvest event come to pass. And as I said, those individuals that choose to remain in the third dimension, lower densities, that's okay. They have the free will to do that. That is a cosmic law of free will. I choose not to participate in that. I choose not to live in that world. I choose to live in a higher world. And so I am trying to do my part to fulfill that to take place. And I think more people, when they finally get introduced to this knowledge, this ancient knowledge, they're going to start opening up inside. They're going to start feeling something they've never felt before. See, this is one thing that's been lacking in this Patriot movement, is hardly anybody talks about the great ascension harvest that is upon us. There's nothing that can stop it. It's upon us. And we get to participate in it, whether we choose to or not. One way or the other, we participate, whether we move forward or we don't. We stay and do things all over again. And, and in the next 10,000 or whatever it is, years, 20,000 years, whatever it is, the cycle takes place. You'll get another opportunity somewhere down the road. And that's okay. Doesn't mean, it's just, this is where we're at, It's really fascinating, when in Christianity, we're very familiar and acclimated to certain terms or dogmas and doctrines, prophetic things, that are preached to us at the pulpit. And there are certain truths. There are certain truths about those things. But the problem is that's where the water kind of gets muddied a little bit, where people get a little confused, because people have been so conditioned to stay in what is known as religiosity rather than spirituality. Mm-hmm. On purpose. It's by design to keep you ignorant and retarded of your divine origins and our true histories, yeah. So I'm like a thoroughbred horse chomping at the bit to bust out of that gate and let's go.
I feel you on that. That's 100% accurate. And, I've seen, so how to articulate this? There's a covenant, and the covenant, and you helped inspire some things just now with your sharing. The covenant is inscribed, for lack of better terms, on the heart of those who have made the covenant. And I'm going to have to speak poetically here just for the illustration of it. And as we like to talk, we say, okay, so those that had the covenant are saying, okay, we're going to go journey our journeys, but we made this covenant. And if ever there is a time that we need to come and protect that covenant and live up to that covenant, we will do so, just as God is going to live up to that covenant. Enter present moment now, where we are all here, the light workers around the planet, who are saying there's a thin thread holding that constitution, but we have vowed an oath in our spiritual journeys in the ethers to say we will incarnate to come and honor that covenant of God's land, which is the entire planet, but specific areas where we'll come together to maintain that covenant. So it looks like a divine providence during the last 2 years kicked off rapidly and said, those who are aligned to that covenant must now unite together throughout the world so that the light workers from all different times and places can preserve the covenant of God's word. And when I was living in Israel, some of you know, maybe I was studying to be Orthodox rabbi, this, that, and the other thing. And people are guided to where they have to be through that which they were familiar with, have they incarnated on the planet. So like ML was raised Christian and others were raised other religions, and I came in through a Jewish background, but then I had my journeys. But that pathway brought me to where I could connect deeper to where I'm connected with the covenant of the one. And when I was at that yeshiva, I would communicate or question those Rosh Yeshivas, the rabbis, and ask them questions. And I had a very dear friend back in that day. And in the Bible, the Torah, it says you should not be idolatrizing. Do not idolatrize. So we would contemplate up on the rooftops of Jerusalem at night and say, if we're not supposed to idolatrize, why are we idolatrizing the Torah? See, the Torah is a guidebook to help you remember the purity of the covenant of the love in your heart. The Constitution is a covenant to protect our already innate God-given rights. It is a guidebook. It's a trust, but the trust is within here where you're connected with source. And when you see that that source connecting is being threatened in any way, shape, or form, you remember the covenant and you do that which is necessary to protect and defend the trust. And in trust language, the beneficiary and the trustee have the same jobs in certain areas, which is to protect and defend the trust. So as we come back to these present moments here on this journey, we are seeing and connecting with our fellow trustees, our fellow beneficiaries, our fellow light workers from times gone by and for the days to come, to remember that covenant, which is to protect and defend the trust so that the truth will always prevail and love will always be the winner, poetically speaking, and God is always running the show. And so we even said when we were in Israel, it's Judaic that at the end of times, there will be no religion. There will only be that Shabbos, where all are gathered at the Shabbos table, celebrating the existence of what's called the Shekinah, the presence of the feminine God energy, celebrating the covenant that brought us here. And so we are, I would say, poetically speaking, on a Wednesday, and Shabbos is just around the corner. But we're prepping for that day. We're prepping, and even though sometimes it gets tedious, they say it's the Jews don't keep the Shabbos keeps the Jews. And a Jew is what they call a chosen one. So take the religion out of that equation and say it's not the chosen ones that keep the Shabbos, it's the Shabbos that keep the chosen ones. It's the chosen ones that are the light workers from around the planet that are choosing to restore that covenant and unite together, however God brings us together for that union day of celebration. And that's what we're experiencing now, which is why it's a beautiful time to be on the planet. And we just have to keep on keeping on, but Shabbos is around the corner.
I love that because I'm talking about in 2023, we're coming upon the 70th Jubilee year. And Jubilee is quite a time. It's a time of restoration.
Rest oration.
That's right.
The seventh day we rest.
You know what I would love for us to do at the event in April? I'm going to bring my shofar. I would love it if you guys bring your shofar. And I will invite others that have a shofar to bring their shofar, because I think that would be an amazing opportunity to blow the shofar and pronounce this blessing over those in attendance, and have them feel the frequencies that emanate from the shofar. It's very powerful, very powerful.
I
And I'm
love
not
that
leaving you
idea.
out either, Ananda. So whomever wants to blow a shofar, you'll have an opportunity to blow a shofar.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's pretty cool.
I have blown a shofar once successfully, and I just kind of fell upon it. And then I tried too hard the next times and it didn't come together for me. But it was really fabulous. And yes, I love that idea very much. You'll have to ask Christo to see about traveling with it. It might work, but we have to kind of feel about that. But I
Yeah,
love that you said that. So just the highest will unfold. And I'm so excited. I'm just so very excited. I can't even I don't have words.
Well, I think we're coming upon, we got about 7 minutes left. So if there's anything, if you do you guys have any upcoming events that you want to share with the audience by chance?
That's wonderful. Thank you for asking. We do have a level 1 correcting your status masterclass coming up in Port Huron, Michigan on the 28th and 29th of January, 2023. That's exciting. We also have an exciting level 1 correcting your status masterclass coming up in Des Moines, Iowa. And the dates to be announced. That will either be late March or early April. And we'll be announcing the dates soon. So that one's really exciting. And then there's some anticipation for a Georgia level 1 class and some level 2 classes in Florida and Pennsylvania. So just, visit our website every once in a while. We do update and put the postings. Oh, and then Las Vegas. So we've got quite a few. We just need to lock in the dates.
We got something going on with ML in Missouri. I hear.
Well, yeah, that's like the center point. That's like the
Yeah,
big.
I
That's the
heard about
jubilee.
that.
Oh,
That's the
hopefully
center
I
point.
can live up to everybody's expectations here.
Oh, no expectations. We go with the flow.
Yeah, go ahead, brother.
You gotta
You're
unmute.
muted.
You got to unmute.
You got to mute, Cohen.
We're reading your lips, Cohen, and it
Cohen.
sounds great.
There we go. Okay, how's that?
There you
All
go.
right.
Better.
I was saying I have some expectations that Shekinah presence that Jason was talking about. I'm expecting that to be there.
I like that.
There you go.
You know, there's a lot of wine involved. It's great.
I think people need it. The troops are weary. People
Yeah.
need a little wine.
That'll temporarily let him get over the stressed out moment. Anyway,
Right.
And just so everybody knows, we're here for education and entertainment purposes. We do not promote alcoholism in any way, shape, or form.
We do have compassion for alcoholism, though, because
we
these
do
have been
promote
hard
drinking
times.
chocolate syrup, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. I actually want to know, how did your guys' online event go last week with the physicians, actually?
Jay, would you like to answer that one?
Oh, it was awesome. It's you see what's so beautiful. I think Christo put that together, and somebody said Christo left us. Christo ascended, and he's now enlightened wholeheartedly.
Yeah, he's waiting to hold
I
the
think
door
he had some other. He wanted us to send the love, and he might jump back on, but he had some business that he had to take care of. So his presence are with us. Know that, but there is some business there. As far as that event, when it was awesome, because you'll see that people are waking up all over the nation and are becoming more and more privy and awakened to the corruption within all different indoctrinated industries, whether it's the medical world, the educational world, the science, anything. It's all been infiltrated. And as their hearts are opening up through this blessing over the last 2 years, and if we can look at it as a blessing in disguise, it helps get through it. They're going, wait a minute, something doesn't add up. Something doesn't make sense. And as a result of that, they're saying, how do we exit her rapidly? How do we exit Babylon? How do we get back to our true covenant? How do we get back to the truth? And because of that, there's people from all over the nation and even around the world that are coming to these talks that we're sharing, because we're presenting options and they're excited about it. And that takes off like a wildfire for everybody. And I think that's just going to happen everywhere. And I will say this too, this is something that was really cool that happened even in the legal world. That example that we talked about earlier today, where that woman we helped with that attorney and the attorney self-destructed, she had another attorney on board who has been in the game for 3 generations. He's like the older, wiser man. And he got a kick about some of the things that we're doing because he was finally relieved that somebody was bringing out the truth. And he wrote her a letter and he said, by the way, something here. And it was just like a little hint to something. So she contacted us and I said, do you see what he's doing there? He's giving you a hint because he likes where you're going, but he's trapped in that world, but he's been around long enough. So he's applauding you and he wants you to walk on the right path so you can be free. So he addressed it and now she's free from the entire thing, but he loved it. And what we're seeing is those kind of people who have any inkling of love in their heart and had made choices prior to them awakening and now are ready to get out of the game, even if in their 60s or whatever, and they're still in that system. The truth always sets you free no matter what. And it's an exercise for me every day. But when we bring it to even a guy in a legal system, he recognizes it, he gets the chuckle, and he says, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for exposing the fraud, exposing the corruption. Let me help you out along your way here so we can wrap it up in a nice bow. And we got that letter, and it was in code, but it was very apparent. And you could feel the energy on it. And he was laughing. He was going, oh, finally, it frees him as well. So we don't necessarily realize when we're doing this, we don't necessarily realize what impact we're having. But I always like to use the analogy of the pebble in a still pond. It ripples out. And once you take the red pills, and I would say I've probably taken about 4 bottles of red pills every week. But once you see the truth, right? Once you see it, there's almost like a obligatory natural response that you want other people to see it. And those that can hear it will come. And those that, and Christo talks about it, those that won't hear it, we bless them, but it's irrelevant. We just share it. And we trust that by doing that, we're honoring that covenant. We're honoring the truth, and it's rippling out on subatomic soul levels. And those that will blossom, whether it's today or like what you were saying, ML, lifetimes, it doesn't matter. But the Jubilee is now, and everybody's wanting to jump on board. And so just keep staying true to that. And you'll be amazed of who you're helping, even if it's like a little smile in the grocery store and talking about it.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. You know what I would like to do is I'm going to queue up a video that'll end this out for us, since how we're going into the Christmas weekend. Excuse me. And this is like the most powerful rendition of "O Come All Ye Faithful" by David Osmond from the Osmond family. Okay, this guy was on America, or what is that? Some singing show. I can't remember what it was. America's Got Talent. This was like 10 years ago. And he was chosen to probably take the whole thing, but he got in the top 10, and they wanted him to sing certain songs that were immoral songs. He didn't want to sing them. So he bowed out. He could have won it. He bowed out because his moral compass, he stays true north to God, and he didn't want to compromise those values just to, do that. So back in the summer of 2014, at that time in my different lifetime, I was good friends with Glenn Beck, and I was invited to a very exclusive recording in Arizona, Scottsdale, where Glenn was producing a Christmas CD for that coming December 2014, and David was one of the invitees there to record a couple songs on this Christmas CD. And it was so profound because there was about a dozen singers that were invited, and these were not people that most people don't. These weren't like big celebrity singers. These are just like low-keyed singers that have amazing voices. And so their assignment was to take an old Christmas song and modify it into their own version of it. And they had like 24 hours to do it, write it out, orchestrate it, and then record it and produce it. And so I'm going to cue this up real quick here. Let me do this while you guys can go ahead and talk just for a second, and let me cue it up for us, okay?
Please stand by while ML is queuing up. We have standby music. This is your time for Ed McMahon, Cohen. You gotta.
All right, here we go.
Oh, come all ye faithful, joyful and triumphant. Oh, come ye, oh, come ye to Come and behold him, born the King of angels. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Christ, Christ the Oh, sing choirs of angels, sing in exaltation, sing all ye citizens of heaven above. Glory to God. Glory in the highest. Oh, come, let us
Selah.
ML, you're muted.
Sorry. I said David is a friend of mine in my previous life, and is the voice of an angel. And you know, that just it just penetrates your heart and your soul, you know. So I wanted to leave that with everybody. You know, so thank you, everybody. Thank each and every one of you. I love you all so very much. I'm grateful, Brother Cohen, Christo. I love you. I know you're taking care of business, but I love you. I love you, Jay. I love you, Ananda. I love all of our moderators. I love everybody. I'm grateful. So, I don't know what you guys have planned next week, but maybe we can do it again before the end of the year. We'll do a end of the year roundup. You know, maybe there might be some exciting things to take place between tomorrow and next week. Who knows? You know, but thank you guys. I appreciate you all very much.
Love you, ML.
Heartfelt.
Love you too.
Thank you.
Love
And
you,
Merry
Cohen.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Mhm.